Dark Souls 1 is a genre-defining game that many of you have played, or watched one of the thousands of challenge runs. And if you've seen or played the game, you would know the terrible state of the second half. It's no secret that the second half was rushed. The creators have stated that they ran out of time and had to scramble to finish the game. It really shows where the defining factors are gimmicks and bullshit. But as I stated earlier, you probably already know this. But I'm going to go into reasons why each boss is terrible. But before I go into why the later bosses suck, let me explain what made the early bosses good. Dark Souls 1's early bosses are made up of the Asylum Demon, TARDIS Demon, Bell Gargoyles, Capra Demon, Gaping Dragon, Quelaag, Seath the Great Grey Wolf, Moonline Butterfly, Stray Demon, Iron Golem, Ornstein and Smo. Each one of these bosses have completely different movesets, good arena varieties, with the exception of the Capra Demon, which has a small arena with 2 dogs. Oh, and fun fact, Capra Demon is Latin for nanny goat. And the Stray Demon, which is just the Asylum Demon with an extra attack. But ignoring these outliers, every boss had its own challenge, was fair and balanced, had great movesets, had really good designs. And what I'll talk about later is how the later bosses feel like you're running behind them and spamming attacks in high poise armor. I will also mention how the later sections are split up into 4 arenas that have Lord Soul bosses, and these are the worst of the bosses. So let's start. First up is Seath the Scaleless. Seath the Scaleless is a glorified parade float. Oh my! Who's slower than your grandfather with dementia. Seath is generally an interesting boss, not because he or his level is all that interesting, nor is he interesting for his lore, but how easy he is to defeat. You pretty much just chase his tail around until he dies. That's pretty much his entire boss fight. But I also mentioned his level, the Duke's Archives. This level is incredibly boring with a mandatory death that sends you into a prison cell. Then you have to fight through these punk-ass channelers to get to the Crystal Caves where they have those invisible bridges from Indiana Jones. And when I say this is harder than the boss fight, I'd be lying, because cutting off his tail to get the Moonlight Greatsword is the hardest part, which isn't even worth it because the sword's terrible, and has high intellect requirements. All around, this area sucks more than Riley Reid. Next is the Four Kings. The Four Kings boss fight isn't really that bad. It's a race to see who can do more damage, and you can just roll behind the king's back. But to even survive the arena, you first have to wear the crest of Artorias, which means you lose a ring slot. But this level easily has the worst run back, with both bonfires requiring an elevator ride and running past multiple enemies. And these guys are absolute dickheads. You have these moaning myrtles chasing you that you have to buy or find Transcendent Curse to even attack. Then you encounter the Dark Wraiths, who look like knock-off Skeletors, which makes the run back and Havel's armor a chore. The Four Kings boss fight in the end isn't so bad. I actually enjoyed it the first time around. Next is the Bed of Chaos. The Bed of Chaos is one of the most infamous Dark Souls bosses, even with the creators saying the boss is broken. But I disagree. This is one of the easiest bosses of the entire game. All you have to do is equip the Great Shield and tank his attacks. And if anybody tells you different, they're a dumbass. I'm also going to defend the level of Lost Izalith. Within Lost Izalith, there are 2 boss fights. The Fire Sage Demon, a reskin of the Stray and Asylum Demon, and I'm not going to complain. He's a fun fight that gives you a good amount of souls, and opens up a shortcut. And then there's the Centipede Demon. The Centipede Demon is easily one of the worst bosses ever conceived. You're stuck on an island smaller than your last paycheck, with the Centipede Demon spamming attacks. The only way to hit him is with a weapon that has an overhead swing, or spells if you're a coward. But you could skip both of these and save Solaire. It just costs 30 humanity. But all in all, Lost Izalith is easily one of the best sections in the second half, with 1 good boss, 1 terrible boss, and the easiest boss in the entire game. And the lava retexture looks like shit. Nito the Gravelord, the last of the 4 Lord Souls, and easily one of the worst bosses and levels in the entire game. Starting with the level, the Tomb of the Giants is pitch black with no light source, so you either lose a weapon slot or a helmet slot. And I think there's a light spell, but I'm not a coward who mains spells. And the enemies aren't any better, with giant skeletons that stun you, and these skeletons that have the dog in them. But now, for the piece de resistance, which is French for pile of shit, Nito the Gravelord. The boss starts off with unavoidable fall damage, and then when you go to heal, he shoves his sword up your ass from the other end of the arena. Then when you finally get up close, there's 3 skeletons that gank you. You can't use half the arena because there's even more skeletons in the back. But once you get up close to Nito, he only has 3 attacks, and they're all extremely easy to dodge. So you end up wailing on him, hoping skeletons don't come up and get a cheap shot on you. This whole section to me has always felt the most rushed, with the boss fight being so easy that I had to add mandatory damage and gank. There's 2 more bosses that aren't in either of the Lord Soul sections, these being Priscilla the Half-Breed and Gwendolyn. Priscilla's gimmick is that she goes invisible, which is annoying, but once she's out of the phase, she's extremely easy to kill. And there's Gwendolyn, who just shoots projectiles at you, backs up, and it's really easy to beat him once you learn his 3 attacks. Last up is Lord Gwyn. I'm gonna be honest, I forgot to even think about this boss because you can just parry him and he's really easy to defeat. And if you save Solaire, it completely trivializes the fight. In conclusion, to end this video, I just want to point out how all of these bosses can be killed in the exact same strategy, excluding Lord Gwyn, which is putting on high poise armor and walking behind their back while they're attacking you, and double holding your weapon and spamming them till you're dead, which really makes the second half boring. That's all.